Now to the politics of pot. It may take yet another turn in Michigan. A ballot proposal asking if you'll support recreational marijuana is pretty much a foregone conclusion on this November's ballot. But tonight there's talk in Lansing about legislatively approving it before it goes to the ballot. Mara McDonald in Lansing with the backstory on why. Mara?
Devin, here is the deal. All the polling we've seen on recreational pot shows that it passes, but it also shows that that issue alone can drive voter turnout. So the question here becomes, is that voter turnout enough to impact other races? Medical marijuana usage passed by a huge margin back in 2008. 63% of voters said yes. Now in 2018, recreational pot is heading to the ballot. And while the signatures are still being vetted, I don't know anybody in Lansing who doesn't think it will appear on the ballot and win. As a matter of fact, if we voted right now, according to polling,
if it were on the ballot today and we were to vote today, I think it would pass probably with 55 or 56% of the vote statewide.
In Darnoy's estimation, it would also likely up the voter turnout by 2 or 3%, which GOP sources in Lansing tell me has them wondering if they ought to just legislatively pass recreational pot now. Why? Concerns that a pot voter bump could cause them to lose control of the state house.
So let me get this straight. You think legalizing marijuana in Lansing right now is gonna nullify the fucking ballot measure from being a driver for people to go to the polls? That is a reach, first of all. Let me just say that. That's a pretty big reach. Like, oh, let's see. There's going to be 3% more people going to the polls. The perception in Lansing is that these people are going to be liberals and vote for the Democrats. And there's a lot of seats up for grabs in the state house there. Their calculation is there's going to be a lot of bloodshed in November. The Republicans in Lansing are going to lose big time in November. So I don't really see this being a thing that's going to help them. And in fact, it might even hurt them. Because what I'm thinking is they're gonna, if you look at their medical marijuana program that they're putting together in Lansing, with the Medical Marijuana Facilities Licensing Act that was passed by Lansing in 2016. How's that going so far? So far, it's tripping and stumbling out of the gate. Less than 500 people have applied for licenses. Less than zero people have received a license yet, as of this update. A couple people, 2 for sure that I know of, have been turned down for licenses, and hundreds more are going to be turned down real soon because they basically put in licenses kind of just to put them in so that they can remain open in the area where they're at, but the local municipality where they're at doesn't even allow the licensed facilities, so they're gonna have to pack it up. All right, but so that's just how their shit's going right now. Those Republicans in Lansing, that's how their program's going right now. So what am I thinking? If they're going to pass some medical marijuana or recreational marijuana, if they pass a recreational law in Lansing and legalize marijuana in Lansing between now and November, it's gonna be garbage. Even if they look at My Legalize and copy it word for word, it's probably going to be still questionable. People are going to criticize it and wonder, I think with that they would get rid of the micro business part of the My Legalize, otherwise known as the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana Like Alcohols ballot initiative, which will be on the ballot in November. Nobody has any doubts about that. And it has pretty good support, so it's going to win by a landslide. It's going to draw people to the polls, like they say, like they've said in this story. And those people are not going to vote for Republicans because there's no, I guess you could say, passion for anybody to vote for Republicans in this climate in 2018. you know, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Michigan, I think Michigan works in 8-year pendulums with governors and state offices in general. Now the gerrymandering and the whatever else is going on that's making people hold position is doing really well for a lot of people. And on the Republican side, there's a lot of funding, if you know what I mean, to keep these candidates in place. So overall, you got the most corrupt government in the United States. It is in Lansing, Michigan, by the way, in case you didn't know that. And they're trying to basically, I don't know any other way to put this, but they're trying to subvert the will of the people in a weird and convoluted way that I don't even know if it's even, you know, it's easy to explain. It's like it's laid right out there in front of you. They just said it. They're like, we should legalize marijuana now, so that way those lazy stoners that want to legalize marijuana in November, they won't even have to bother going to the polls. And we know they're going to vote for a bunch of Democrats anyway, so why would we, you know, why not do this? And it's the weirdest thing ever. So, I don't know. I mean, like I said, anything short of like making a verbatim copy of my legalization platform is going to be a stretch. And like I said, they'll probably do that and just take away the micro businesses, which allowed people to run small marijuana businesses of about 100 plants, and they can do all the processing and all that shit on site and sell it out the door on site. So, you know, what I'm thinking is they're not going to like that. That's the kind of thing that Republicans in Lansing that craft laws to regulate businesses, they don't like that kind of shit. They don't like it when small businesses get to operate to take big chunks out of, you know, bites out of the big corporate operators. And if you ever drive through Michigan, you'll notice that it's nothing but big corporate operators everywhere. They've taken over everything from big cities down to the small town, and they boxed everything up and shipped it out. Pretty soon, Amazon will come in and clean up all that, and we'll be left with basically just a giant wasteland of corporate manure permeating the air. But you won't smell the manure because all you'll smell is glyphosate and GMOs growing, because the corporations pretty much own Michigan after all the Republican rule that we've been through. So I don't think they have anything to worry about as far as November goes.
Which in an unpredictable election year is a very real concern and conversation.
It is a legitimate concern, and if I were with the House Republicans, I would certainly take it seriously, but I don't think it's reached critical mass at this point.
Back here live, let's also remember that right now, all of this is merely behind closed doors discussions. And let's also remember.
I don't like that. We're supposed to remember that. I might put that in the title of this video, like behind closed doors meetings of members of Congress, or maybe even just the Republicans, who knows, are talking about legalizing recreational marijuana to basically sidestep it having to be legalized in November, which is weird, because let's just pretend for 1 minute that marijuana was legalized by the legislation in Michigan all of a sudden, and it was a good platform. Like, let's just say it was a great platform, and it not only included micro businesses, but also did what my Legalize and the CMRLA couldn't even do, which would be to give caregivers the right to sell their overages to the dispensaries. Something that nobody wants to allow, because the corporate players and operators are basically breathing down their necks saying, hey, we don't want this death of 1,000 cuts kind of competition going on, so let's not have that. And with the Democrats, you got the big tax, dollar signs in their eyes, and with the Republicans, you got the fees and assessments in their eyes, and the enforcement still, like, there's still some enforcement and strict enforcement with penalties that include felony crimes and shit when you're talking about Lansing's already adjusted medical marijuana laws. So when you're talking about trusting Lansing to pass something that would be better than the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana like alcohol, that's a whole conversation we could sit here and have, but I guarantee you're not going to get a few talking points by me. All right, not much, because I don't really see it happening. All right, and the main component of this is the decriminalization, because I do see in the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana like alcohol's ballot question, what I see in that is a solid decriminalization platform, which is a good place to start from where we're at now. Where we're at now is we've had more marijuana arrests than before the medical marijuana law passed in 2008. And that number is like 16% increase. So we want to see the reversal of that, obviously. But let's pretend for one quick second that their plan is solid gold and they legalize marijuana and they let micro businesses exist, and they also, goddamn, they let caregivers sell their overage to dispensaries, and even clones. You can even check the clones into the regulated system. That would be awesome. You know, throw them a bone. But, you know, I'm just giving you ideas. If you were to supposedly like do something like legalize marijuana before November to try to like squell the the liberals that want to legalize marijuana rushing off to the ballots in November to make sure that happens. And again, I don't really, you know, this is a midterm election, so Republicans, especially in Lansing, and especially incumbents and people that might be getting challenged by progressive candidates that actually have issues that the voters want to hear, and they talk about them and shit like that. You know, like, Republicans don't want to have nothing to do with any of that. They usually like to just hide out during the midterm election season and pass a lot of shitty laws and get like crazy governors elected and shit like that. That's what midterms are usually relegated to. But when you have a marijuana election, people know that's going to make the election, that's going to bolster the numbers. And I even talked with My Legalize's Colin McDougall about this in one of my interviews with him in 2017 on this channel. And I do remember him saying that he was pretty comfortable that it was a midterm and that it was a catalyzing issue that would bring people to the polls, rather than just be like, oh, this is the midterm, it's a bunch of lazy stoners, so no one's gonna go show up to vote anyway. And that's the way midterms usually are. Nobody usually votes in the midterms. That's when a lot of people go up for re-election, and then they just kind of skate right through it. So let's pretend like that happens, and then My Legalize / the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana like alcohol, you get to go vote on that still. That's not gonna, if they legalize marijuana, that's not gonna knock that off the ballot, because the people fought hard to get that on the ballot. So it's still gonna be something that's gonna be up for a vote. Will people still go vote for it, even if the platform of the Lansing legalization is better than My Legalizes? Would people still go vote for it? Would people vote yes or no for it? Would people go vote no for it passionately because they know that the Lansing plan is better? And by the way, Coalition to Regulate Marijuana like alcohol, if it gets voted into law, the licensing of facilities doesn't even start till a year later, according to the law itself. So think about that for a minute. Lansing has to think about that for a minute. And what I feel like that does is, when you got that year gap between recreational sales and facilities being licensed, in that time, what could happen? You know, and who benefits from that? That's the two questions you got to ask yourself. Well, one thing that could happen is potential operators that are gearing up for this might get busted between then and November of 2018. Option B, you know, in that time, people could position themselves to get very big shares of the market also, because I do believe that with My Legalize, even though they're talking about this, I think the stacking of licenses is going to be a more open subject to talk about. And if people don't debate that now, it's not going to stop. That's going to just be a thing. And when you talk about, like, another thing that Colin McDougall answered to was that he sees the coalition's plan as being more of a lot of smaller businesses rather than small amounts of big businesses. And that's because of the nature of the license schemes. On the other hand, if you say that you could stack the highest license with 1,000, 2,500, and 5,000, if I'm not mistaken, something like that, that's pretty much ballpark without digging up documents and shit. But anyway, so what if you just get a 5,000 plant license and just stack 5 of those? 25,000 plants is a pretty good facility right there. That's keeping a lot of small operators from being able to make a profit or even being able to see the light of day. So who knows what's going to happen with all that. You know, I'm sitting here giving you the hypotheticals. That's all I'm doing. And we talked about what would happen if, you know, the Lansing decided to pass something that was just bullshit. I mean, basically that would just make My Legalize have to do a little bit more of an effort to put the word out that, hey, yeah, marijuana just got legalized by Lansing, but guess what, guys? It's not going to work. And you got to convince people, and in order to do that, you got to spend money on advertising and shit. So I would see a big fundraising effort, or like I said, that would be something that might open up the floodgate for potential talks about stacking licenses and inviting big out-of-state players or even big in-state players. You don't even have to go out of state to find people that would be willing to run a like 50,000 plant facility in Michigan. I mean, they're here, dude. I can probably call one up on my phone. So basically, you know, the hypothetical to me is a good thing to pose and make a video about, because maybe Lansing is watching this video. Who knows? And if they are, yeah, you know, like, you can't pull this one off unless you do something that's going to be better than what's going to be offered on November's ballot. And if you think that you're going to just make people become complacent in November because the legalization already happened, you better get to it like lickety split. All right, like, this can't be something where you guys hammer it out all legislative session and at that it's like June and you're like, okay, we got to do this, it's do or die, and then you put out some regulations and it's garbage. You know, My Legalize is still way more of a thing that people would go vote for. And you know, like, in light of that, when does it even kick in? You know, do you say instantly we just cross the word medical off the marijuana laws, the medical marijuana laws that you made last year? We just cross the word medical off that. And I've already said this in previous videos. They could do that real easily. Just cross the word medical off of medical marijuana in the public acts that they already passed in 2016. I don't know how hard of a push that would be to do that. Like, exactly what process they would have to go through. I'm not a legal expert or a civics teacher or nothing, so I don't know these things. But it seems to me like it would be a little bit of a push to just cross, even just to cross that off. It would probably be easier for them to put together packages. And I have asked people on in the campaigns of Abrogate Michigan Prohibition, as well as My Legalize and the Coalition to Regulate Marijuana like alcohol, what if Lansing just decided to pop off with some shit like that out of the blue? And this was off camera when I asked this question, but I'm going to tell you the answer from the Coalition people was basically that they've talked with people that know people on the inside, and there's no agreement going on with that. Now, this might have changed between now and then, because now we're in a new kind of a political season. And like I said, there's a lot of potential for bloodshed in Lansing in November as far as Republicans losing their seats. So who knows what's going to happen, man. But what the people that I've talked to said, and this is just hearsay, so take it for whatever you want, but they were like, yo, there wasn't really any agreement, and people are still real tepid about putting their name on anything to do with marijuana, because back at their local district in, Nashville, Michigan or whatever, people aren't so, marijuana legalization isn't so popular in all the districts in Michigan. Just because it polls really well and people will probably vote for it, yes, in November. That doesn't mean when you go to the average small town in Michigan, you're going to see a bustling cannabis community. Not at all. You're going to see more of an anti-cannabis community. Like that thumbnail or that meme I just made for the weekly podcast on the last video I just made. Yeah, that was taken in my town. Like, that's just someone driving around with like weed crossout stickers on their truck. So, it's whatever it is, Lansing. If you're going to do something, you got to do it fast, you got to do it right, and you got to have like a good attitude about it. And I know you can do it. And, just because I heard rumors, this and that, and they have like 2 different working plans that they already have on the table. This is just hearsay and rumors that I heard, and the fact is that I really don't know if I could confirm this, but the source that I heard it from, I felt like is a pretty trustworthy source that does actually have some connections, and they do hang out in Lansing quite frequently. They live in Lansing, so anyway, like I said, there is an agreement, and it's not even among party lines. It's just there is not agreement on either of the plans, because there's just so many things in it. Like when you're talking about legalizing marijuana, there's so many facets of it and little details that have already been done in different places and with varying results as far as whatever results they're looking to get out of it. And when it comes to doing the thing that is the best for people that would be potentially marijuana customers, that's something they're not really too concerned about. All right, I'm going to watch the rest of this video and probably be done.
Remember that the GOP in the not so distant past has tried to get recreational pot moving through the legislature. It always gets stopped because of deep divisions in the caucus, and those are divisions that exist today. But Devin, Kimberly, it is a weird political year, and I think at this point, anything's possible.
And what she means by the weird political year is the Republicans are divided on a lot of issues, and this is one of the big ones that they're divided on. You have different, like she said, caucuses within the Republican Party. And this is true in Lansing just as like it is anywhere else, like it is in D.C. And then you have a few Democrats sprinkled in there. So it's a mess. To try to get any marijuana legalization through that garbage, I don't think you're going to see it happen between now and November. But like I said just a minute before that, is like, if you wanted to do this, you got to do it fast, hard, and right. And all those coalitions I just mentioned trying to get together on legalizing marijuana in Michigan, none of those are going to happen. None of them. It's going to it's not going to happen in time. It's going to be like garbage if it does happen fast. Like, you're not going to get all 3. You're going to get maybe 1 at best, and it's not going to be good enough. People are still going to go vote for the coalition in November, and it's going to pass. And I don't care what else that affects, or the butterfly effect or the Mandela effect or what other effect you need, it's going to hurt Republicans one way or another. Like, people are not, your seats are going to go down. You might lose, the majority in the actual House. So we'll see what happens. Who knows? And like everything, I guess I'll keep everybody updated on the 2018 elections and the 2020 elections. Don't forget. That's all I got on this. Be sure to make sure you subscribe, because I always got updates coming later.